And we are live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another live stream here on the Film Stock channel. It is Wednesday, a staple afternoon/evening to do a Q&A here on the channel. As you guys know, we hang out, talk for an hour, hour and a half, however long it is. But today I'm not doing this alone. I've actually got a special guest, first time ever on the channel, Cody Leach himself. Cody, how you doing, man?
Doing good. I was just talking to you before we went live, and I'm still having that like festival hangover, but slowly getting back into the swing of things.
No, yeah, I can't even imagine, as I was saying before it went on, like however many, you said you watched 10 movies, right? Or more.
10 movies.
I couldn't have done it.
And
Like I
that's
even
pretty
struggled
light. We went to Fantastic Fest last year, and that's a much longer festival, but that was, I think, 24 films that I saw by the end of that one. But yeah, it was the opening night was one movie, and then it was 5 movies, 4 movies, and then one more. And we would have done more, but we watched that 10th one and we were like, I'm done tapping out.
No, yeah, that's madness, especially because the one you were at was specifically horror related, right?
Yeah, it was horror themed. About half of the movies that we saw, I would say, are more horror adjacent than I would.
Okay.
I would struggle to completely call them horror, but that's the theme that they're going for.
Yeah, well, I mean, not light watches for the most part, right? So that would have been a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, if you guys are here in the chat, thank you so much. Fire off your questions. We'll get to as many as we can. Hit the like button. And of course, super chat is the way to go to guarantee we get to your question, comment, or concern. And let's do this thing. All right, let's see. Movie Fan 2002 says, "Hey Chris, what's your favorite movie that has released in April so far?" So, over the course of 10 days, do you have a favorite you've seen so far, Cody?
It hasn't been released to the public yet, but Abigail, which I saw at the festival, it's going to be releasing on the 19th, I believe. That's my favorite movie of the whole year so far.
I'm really looking forward to that because I like Scream 5 and 6 quite a bit. Now, I haven't seen Ready or Not, but it's been recommended to me, so I plan to watch that before Abigail.
I think you'd like it. If you enjoy their Scream movies, Ready or Not, it's up your alley.
Okay, yeah, because I like the trailer. I saw the trailer for Abigail a few times this year already. Love the cast: Giancarlo Esposito, obviously Melissa Barrera, some others in there. I mean, yeah, the trailer sold me, so I think I'll enjoy that one.
Yeah, I'm a massive vampire fan, especially stuff like Lost Boys and From Dusk Till Dawn and Fright Night, and like all my favorites are the vampire movies that are like they don't cut back on the intensity of the horror, but there's a lot of fun in there. There's really fun characters and a lot of good jokes and a lot of just a cool vibe to it, and that's exactly what they're going for with Abigail. And for my money, they nailed it. So that was my most anticipated film of the festival, and I was very happy that it ended up being so good.
Very nice. I love to hear that. I'm definitely seeing that one next week. I actually got invited to a screening. I don't know if I'll be going to that, but I will see it regardless.
Go.
Go. My favorite of the year actually hasn't been released either. It's Challengers. I can't say much because like the embargo hasn't lifted yet, but
the
I went to a
Zendaya
screening
threesome
of that
movie.
Yeah,
That's all I know about.
That's it. Yep. Tennis and yeah, threesome. Now, the score in that movie, I'll say this: it's from Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. They did The Social Network, and it is incredible. I honestly didn't expect to be as riveted by the movie as I was, but I have a full review coming at some point for those wondering my like full fleshed out thoughts. But really stunned by how much I like that one. Me and my girlfriend both were like, "That was incredible." So thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's funny how neither of us said, or never mind, we're not doing the whole year. We're just doing April. So maybe Dune will come up later, but I am not on that. Oh, no. No, yeah. NHTS Racing says, "What's your most anticipated movie for the rest of the year?" For me, it is The Fall Guy. It's a good one. That's up there for me personally. I'm really looking forward to that. I would say I have two answers. I have the stereotypical answer, Deadpool and Wolverine, but under the radar one I've been thinking about recently, it's called Wolves, and it's got Brad Pitt and George Clooney, directed by John Watts, and it's like I believe some sort of heist movie. They're both like on the same hit. They're either like assassins or con men or something. And I think it might be going to Apple, but regardless, I've just rewatched some of the Ocean's movies, and so I'm kind of in that mood right now. So that's kind of an under the radar pick I've been thinking about. But what about you?
Yeah, both of those movies are high on my list as well. My number one right now is Maxine. I'm a massive fan of X. That was like a huge surprise for me the year that it came out, and I really liked Pearl. It wasn't quite on the level of X for me, but it was still, I think, in my top 10, top 15 of the year. So I'm just kind of on pins and needles seeing if they can bring this thing home and give us like what I would consider one of the best horror trilogies ever made, if Maxine's even just as good as Pearl. And I don't typically watch too many horror trailers, but certain ones I can't help myself. And I watched the Maxine trailer, and that thing just oozes style. So I can't wait for that one.
There you go. Let's see. Starcourt Food Court, the best mod around, says, Cody, what is your favorite Mike Flanagan show? Mine is The Fall of the House of Usher, my favorite horror content of last year.
Well, it needs to be said that I have not seen Midnight Mass. So that one could possibly be my favorite, but nonetheless, the ones that I have seen, I would agree with you. Fall of the House of Usher. I really like the Hill House and what's the other one? Bly Manor. Not quite as much as Hill House, but I like everything on some level that Flanagan has done. And so I walked into Fall of the House of Usher just expecting to like it, and I loved that show. I thought it was just incredible start to finish. So to me, that's maybe, with the exception of Doctor Sleep, the best thing that he's ever done, period.
So my relationship with horror is very strange. I'll get on these horror kicks. I'll watch 5 to 10 movies over the course of a week, and then I'll take 6 months off from watching any horror. It's very weird. I have to be in a very specific mood. And so my buddy Jacob right here, Starcourt, he loves all the horror stuff. And last year he was like, you got to watch The Fall of the House of Usher. And I watched the first 2 episodes. I won't say what happens, but at the end of the second episode, pretty disturbing. And I was like, oh shit. And so I took like a week off, and I just never went back to it. But he's trying to sell me on Hill House, and I might be saving it for October. So we'll see if I watch that or not. But yeah.
The funny thing about Fall of the House of Usher is that, I got a screener for it, and I was trying to rush through it and watch, not really rush, but I was trying adamantly to finish it because it came out the week before I was heading to Austin for Fantastic Fest last year. And at Fantastic Fest, one of the options for screenings was they were debuting the first 2 episodes of the show. And so I felt like I think I was the only person at the festival that had seen the whole show, because nobody else I talked to had. And the people that came out of the screening with all, the last thing they saw was how episode 2 ended. They were just like, what the hell? And I was like, yeah, it gets crazier. Keep going. And so it was funny to have the perspective to know what's next.
Yeah, I have no clue what's in store for that show if I ever go back to it. But wow, it was a lot. We got a super chat from Detective Cobra saying, are you going to see The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare? This is the new Guy Ritchie movie, right? Comes out in a few weeks, or maybe even next week.
Is it Guy Ritchie? I can't remember. But it's the Henry Cavill movie. Henry Cavill and Alan Ritchson.
Yeah, Jack Reacher. And I think a few other stars like they're in there too. It was that Dan Stevens guy in there. I can't remember. He's having a year.
Wouldn't surprise me. He's in everything this year.
I don't even know. But yeah, I think I'll watch that one. It looks interesting enough.
Yeah, I've already got my ticket for it. It's not like a movie that I'm dying to see, but it certainly seemed interesting. So just for the nature of the job, I'm going to see it regardless.
Yeah, why not? Let's see. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome in. Chris loves seeing the MegaCon crossover once again. Yes, thank you for joining, Cody. This is from Rylan. Shout out Rylan, longtime subscriber. My question for tonight is, what film has the craziest plot twists that you love showing friends? I got to think on this for a second. You have one?
The one that I can think of is I've only had the experience one time in my life of being able to show it to somebody that had no idea what was coming. And I already talked about it, or I mentioned earlier, From Dusk Till Dawn. Okay. So if you haven't seen this film, it's written by Quentin Tarantino. It's directed by Robert Rodriguez. And the first half of the movie is just like a crime movie. It's 2 brothers that are very bad people, but they're very fun to watch bad people. And they've murdered and robbed, and they're on the run. They kidnap a family to get across the Mexican border, and they're meeting up at this bar to hand off to their handler for their sanctuary. And when you get to this bar, the movie has a gigantic genre switch. And I'm going to play coy with that just in case there's somebody that hasn't seen it. That I encourage everybody to check it out. But I sat down with my wife to watch it a couple of years ago. And I thought, my wife is one of those people that hasn't seen too many movies. And so I was like, you ever heard of this? And she goes, no. I'm like, awesome. And I just played it. And the second that genre switch, she was like, what the fuck? It was the coolest thing ever to see somebody that's such a movie that's in the pop culture consciousness that I just don't know too many people that don't know what's coming. So that was a cool one.
Honestly, I have not seen it. I've seen little shots from the movie. I've seen
Mhm.
every Tarantino directed film. I've seen True Romance that he wrote. I just haven't watched this one for whatever
Mhm.
reason. So now you've kind of piqued my interest a little bit.
Okay.
Um, Regarding the question, there's movies. I'll say this much: I showed Seven to my girlfriend, and I'm
Mhm.
not making this up. She within like the first 20 minutes, she was like, she kind of predicted what was going to happen. I'm not going to say it just in case you guys haven't seen
Really?
it.
That seems like a
She
movie
was like,
that's very hard to predict.
yeah, I know. She was like, I think this is about to happen. She didn't like get the fine details of how a certain reveal goes down, but she was like, there's no way this person, you know where I'm going with it. I don't want to say too much, but that was interesting.
I think she's bullshitting. I think she had Wikipedia open.
She might have. She got me really good. This was in 2020 during the pandemic with Saw. She like watched them all with these commentary tracks,
Mm.
and she showed me the first Saw, and I didn't know what the twist was. I'm still not going to say it, but I watched Saw, and I had no idea. And I
Mhm.
legit remember I was in this room, and I perked up. I sat back. I was like, "There's no way," and I like
Mhm.
had this big grin. And to this day, that's like my favorite twist I've
Very
ever
cool.
seen. Really got me. But good question, Rylan. Let's see. Oppenhomies for Life says, "Are you guys planning on watching Fallout? This is the new Amazon show. I want to say, I'm personally not planning to watch it. I'm not familiar with the games, and so it's just not really up my alley. I don't think, but you never know. I saw it had pretty decent reviews.
Yeah, the reviews is what's kind of piqued my interest a bit. It wasn't something that immediately had my interest. I've played a couple Fallout games, but I would hesitate to call myself like a fan of them. And TV shows, for whatever reason, are just feel like so much more of an investment for me than just popping on a couple of movies, which sounds silly because I'll watch, 7, 8 episodes worth of movies and feel nothing. But yeah, the Walton Goggins being in it certainly had my attention, and then I've seen a lot of pretty good reviews so far of the people that have gotten a screener for it. So if I could find the time to, this
Mhm.
didn't seem like it was going to be a very stacked month, but here now that we're going into the second half of it, it's looking like it's going to be for me. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
lots of stuff still coming out this month. Let's see. Super chat from Movie Fan 2002 says, "Chris, I meant what is your favorite movie that released in April ever? So in the history of April." Um,
That's impossible to answer off the cuff, man. What's going on? All right.
I'll
Let me
say
see if
this
I can do
much.
some Google magic.
Go for it. I recently made a short about like the biggest movies that it released in April, box office wise, and so it's kind of easy for me to answer.
Oh, okay.
It's either an Endgame or Infinity War. I forget they come out in April because they were originally slated for
Oh,
like May,
yeah.
but they technically have that end of April release, which was pretty smart in retrospect. They got an extra week out of the box office, so I'd say one of those.
Well, I got a list up here of biggest April weekends. So I'm assuming all of these movies opened in April, but I might screw it up. So forgive me if I do. Endgame is certainly up there. Fast Five would be pretty
Hmm.
high up there. Scrolling down, A Quiet Place
Oh
would
yeah,
certainly
good
be
one.
up there for me. The Matrix, absolutely. So far, that's number one of the ones that I listed. But that could just be a movie that was in theaters for a really long time.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and we'll cut it off there because now we're getting into a bunch of deep cuts that
yeah.
probably didn't release in April.
No, yeah, just carry over from March or something, or
Hmm.
who knows. Um, let's see. Gavin Moon says, "Hey guys, what is your favorite movie of the decade so far?"
Oh,
Pressure's on. So 2020, 21, 22, 23, and 24. Um, I would say mine is Oppenheimer. I was a big fan of that one. My Top Gun Maverick, though, my God. I mean, anytime it's on, it was on the other day at my girlfriend's house, and I watched like the last hour, and I was just like, this movie rules. So
hmm.
probably one of those two.
I can't say with 100% confidence unless I sat around and prepared. Like sifted through the last 10 years, but my gut reaction is to say Batman, the Batman from 2 years ago, just
Yeah.
because that's the only movie that I've reviewed as a new release in the 7 years I've been on YouTube that I gave 5 out of 5 right out of the gate.
Okay.
So that's the answer I'm going to give for now, but I could
Totally
be
fair.
wrong.
Yeah, totally fair.
Mhm.
Um, it's a bummer about the sequel that got delayed, but it is what it is. I think we'll get it in time, and it'll be worth the wait.
Mhm.
Um, ooh, okay. Rylan says, "What theater going experience do you remember for all the wrong reasons?" So, aka a horrible movie theater experience you've had. I know you've made videos about this. I made a video about it once as well.
Yeah, I've got a
It's
number of them. The one most recently that sticks in my mind that just immediately pops in when you ask about bad theater experiences was when I saw Wakanda Forever, and I had a guy to the right of me that answered his phone twice, like
mm,
full conversation, like not even trying to hide it. Like it was just like, "Hey man, what's going on?" Yeah, and I'm like, "What the hell, dude? Like that's bold." And so the second time that he did it, I was like, I'm about to move. And then I looked to my left, and this woman had her kid there that had no interest in the movie, which I get it. That's a very emotional movie that's not really a kid's Marvel film. But he's bouncing off the walls, and she hands him a tablet to play video games on and lets him do it with the sound on.
mm.
And so I'm like stuck. I have like stupid in stereo. And then I moved to another part of the theater, and then those people are talking. So it was just like, okay, I'll just accept the fact that everybody in this theater sucks. And so that's the worst one I've had recently.
That's unfortunately the case nowadays with like I'd say almost more than half of the movies I go to. Someone tries to ruin it,
Mhm,
and two that stand out to me for the wrong reasons. One was last summer, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One. I'm sitting in the theater with my girlfriend, and a family walks in, and they have like a child with them who's disabled,
mhm,
and they like during the previews, the kids start screaming very unpleasantly, and so like they should have taken the kid out, right? Instead, they put headphones on the kid, and the mom was like holding the headphones like that over the kid's ears and covering his eyes. And then it happened again in another preview. And then when the movie started, she gave him a tablet and turned him around. It's like so he's not facing the screen, he was facing us, and it was just very uncomfortable. And then eventually the kids started crying more and they left like 10 minutes into the movie. But I wanted to leave. I was like, this is just it's like borderline disturbing to watch this happen, this
yeah,
treatment of this kid, which was very bizarre. And then another one was, funnily enough, for the original Black Panther. This guy walked in to the movie and he had like a backpack on,
mhm,
very shady looking. Like he kind of looked around, slowly walked up the stairs, and then like 20 or 30 minutes into the movie, he like got up and did the same thing, like slowly walked down, and he like stopped at the bottom of the stairs. And I was like freaking out because this was I still get like that in public places, very on edge, always alert.
mhm,
And he just like walked out. He never came back in. But for the rest of the movie, I was very uneasy.
yeah.
Um, so those two, I'll always like people. Why are people like that? I don't know. I wish people would just be normal at the movies, but unfortunately, people like that exist.
I had something similar to that happen when I saw, Hell or High Water, and this was a movie that I was fighting tooth and nail to see for, like, weeks because 'cause I'd heard so much good things about it. It was early on in my YouTube career, so I was itching to review it, and it was only playing in, like, one theater that I hate going to that's, like, 45 minutes away. So, finally, after weeks, I finally get me and my wife some time to go and check it out, and we watched the whole movie, loving it, and you get to, like, the last 10 minutes of the film, and these 2 dudes walk in who have not been in the movie the entire time,
Hmm.
and one of them sits at the very front corner, and the other one sits in the very back corner, and something about that just put me on edge where I'm like, why did they just like literally encapsulate the entire theater within their view? And so we left, and the little like stair barrier that's right there when you walk into the theater, like I was watching the last 10 minutes of the movie like this, just waiting for a gunshot or something to
No,
go
yeah,
off,
yeah.
which sounds screwed up because I should have told somebody, but I was just like, all right, well, we're safe if something happens, but just in case, let me see the end of this movie.
No,
So yeah, it's weird. People act strange, and even just people walking into a movie when it's halfway over, you're just like, "Why are
like
you
what are
here?"
you doing? Even like 10 to 15 minutes, like I get, but 20, 25, I'm like, it just puts me on edge. What are you
Mhm,
doing? And then there's always one empty seat or two next to me, and someone always comes and sits next to me. It's
mhm,
happened multiple times, and it just puts me on edge.
yeah,
I almost wish they had a hard cutoff for like I don't know what that would be.
mhm,
10 minutes into the movie, you can't go in, but I don't know how they would enforce that. So
yeah,
who knows? But yeah, it sucks that we have to be on edge, not only at the movie theater, but like public places.
mhm. I don't know if he froze for me or for everybody. Oh, there he is.
Got first. I warned you that would happen. Hello.
Cody solo stream. Okay, so well, let me go to the questions really quick while Chris has said his Wi-Fi might get a little
Let
funny once in a
me
while.
see.
Are you back?
No. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, you
Am I
seem
am
back.
I
You're
laggy?
pixelated, but we
Okay,
can at
cool.
least hear you. Yeah.
Okay, that was bizarre. Um, well, I warned you that would happen beforehand. Anytime I have a guest on, my Wi-Fi
Mhm.
crashes.
Yeah.
So I apologize for that. Hopefully, you guys
All good.
can still see me and hear me. It says I have 1 bar of Wi-Fi, but we'll make this thing work.
Mhm.
We have a super chat here. Incendies by Denis Villeneuve has one of the best plot twists ever, Cody. This movie is in French, but just try it with subtitles. You will not regret it.
Okay, interesting.
I've never
I've
seen
not
it.
seen it. I've
Yeah.
never seen it either. Yeah.
I've heard decent things, but most of the time people don't actually talk about it when they're talking about Denis' filmography. They just kind of leave it out. So, yeah, I haven't
Yeah,
seen it.
I have an odd relationship with Villeneuve where like every one of his movies I always appreciate more than I enjoy. Dune Part 2 and Dune Part 1 are the only ones that kind of cross that barrier, but he's one of those filmmakers where it's just like I love what you do, but for some reason there's always something missing for my personal taste. So he's not one of those filmmakers I've gone back and checked out all of his early stuff yet.
Hmm. I feel similarly. I say my favorite of his is Prisoners,
Mhm.
and then after that, I would maybe say Arrival, but I've only seen it once. He doesn't make movies that I revisit
Yeah, me
often,
too.
so I never actually got through Sicario, which is like a thing I've said. People are like, "What?" I don't know what it was. I tried it twice, and I fell asleep the first time, and the second time I was just like, "It's not for me." I've heard it's one of his better ones, but for whatever reason, just
Mhm.
couldn't do it. Let's see. Jello plays with the super chat saying, "What's one movie to show someone who's never seen a movie? Period." So, like, I guess the movie to show them to introduce them to movies.
That would be
Ah.
crazy to meet somebody. I've never seen a movie. I'd be like, "You
That's
need to, like,
insane.
hang out with me for, like, 6 months."
Yeah,
I would say Back to the Future.
I was about to say the same exact thing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
To me, that's if there's ever been a perfect movie, that is it.
Hmm.
So to me, that kind of encapsulates everything about movie magic.
It's hard to argue against that.
Mhm.
Another one I would say is maybe the original Star Wars, but you know, they're both similar to me. Big blockbuster movies, adventure, iconic. I would say one of those two probably.
Mhm.
Let's see. Detective Cobra says, "Is Challengers graphic with raunch?" And apologies if I'm lagging again, but it's. I mean, it is rated R. Um,
Does
but
it
I
earn the R rating?
not in the way
Let's
you would
just ask the
think.
question
Yeah.
that Detective Cobra's dancing around. Is there a graphic sex scene with Zendaya? That's exactly what he's asking.
That is what he's asking. Perhaps not.
Okay.
But there is nudity, I'll say that much. It's but maybe not in the way you expect. You just got to watch, maybe
Hmm,
some in the
okay.
background, in like a locker room environment. But not as in your face as you might think.
Okay.
Um, like something say in Euphoria, which I haven't seen, but I've heard all about. So,
Mhm.
yeah. We got another super chat from Lee. Thank you so much, Lee. My worst theater experience is when Scream 6 came out. A mother brought her kids. They were screaming and running around my theater. And I say take them kids home. They have no reason to be here. Yeah, kids in a movie theater. You just unlocked a memory for me, Lee. I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood opening night, Thursday showing with my brother and his friend. And you've been to the Regal in Atlanta, right? The Atlantic Station one.
Yes.
I'm not a fan of that theater. It's just not the most comfortable seats, and it gets hot as hell in there in the summer. I don't
Mhm.
like the theater. Period. A lot of the screenings I go to are there, unfortunately, but we were there, and certain auditoriums are designed where like there's these walkways in the theater at the bottom that sort of go to these outdoors. Well, the whole movie it was fine. The audience was fine, right? They were laughing, and then in the final 30 minutes of the movie it goes batshit crazy. As we all know, Leo with the flamethrower.
Mhm.
These kids get up, and one of them is screaming, like bloody murder, screaming, running around. I think the mom had left or something, but this kid's just running around screaming at the bottom and crying. And it was like, is anyone going to get the kid? It was just very strange. I think eventually someone from the auditorium got up and like walked them out of the theater. I don't know where the parent was. I had no clue what was going on, but it was very strange. And I honestly forget about that when it comes to worst movie theater experiences. But that was bizarre. So yeah, kids in theaters oftentimes like, what are we doing? There's certain movies you can bring kids to, but not all.
Yeah, and even if you wanna test it out, like, I'm very critical when it comes to parents in theaters because 'cause I'm somebody where if I bring my kids, it doesn't matter if it's Kung Fu Panda. I'm like, "Shh, quiet." Like, I'm always
Mhm.
trying to make sure that they're not disturbing other people, and, I don't see too many other people do that, and it's quite the opposite sometimes where I've been in 2 theaters now, aside from the story I told you where a mom hands a kid a tablet or a cell phone with the sound on. And it's like, I understand desperate times, desperate measures. If you want to give your kid a phone or something with the brightness turned all the way down with no sound and it's not super disturbing, like I can tolerate that, especially if you're most of the way through the movie and it's like, fuck, oh, just 20 more minutes. I got to get through this.
Yeah.
But I've seen it where like they bring the tablets in knowing the kid's going to be a pain. And it's like, at that point, you need to stay home. I'm sorry. You don't get to watch this movie because you're basically telling the whole theater my experience is more important than everybody else that paid money. And I just can't stand the entitlement that comes with that. So, yeah, it drives me nuts whenever there's kids that don't act right in the theater and the parents just like, whatever, ain't my problem. I'm here to enjoy the movie. And everybody else in the theater is just like,
It's infuriating.
yeah,
It's common courtesy down the drain is what it is, especially in the post-pandemic era. Where like it's sad. I mean,
yeah.
most movies I go to, I would say someone's being a disruptor. I mean, when I saw Spider-Verse the second time, kids were running around in the front of the theater trying to be funny, like cracking jokes. A lot of the times, people will answer phone calls. It happened Tenet round two, which was like right during the pandemic. But a dude, I'd already seen it. Dude answered his phone like at the very end of the movie out loud. It just happens way too often.
And it teaches the kids that that's okay.
Yeah, it's disgraceful, really. Let's see. We have a super chat from Alex saying, "Do you prefer Jim Carrey or Adam Sandler?"
Oh, God. It's like asking to pick your favorite kids. Um, I will say that Jim Carrey has not quite had the Adam Sandler's not hurting for money, so I can't say his career has dropped off, but the quality of his comedies have dropped off significantly over the past, like, 15 years, and I don't think Jim Carrey has quite had that much of a drop. So I think maybe Jim Carrey's got a little bit more of a tight filmography maybe, but there's probably more Adam Sandler movies that would make my favorites.
Hmm.
But that's so hard because like both of them are like the kings of comedy in my generation in the 90s.
Yeah.
So that's what I grew up with was those 2 guys.
I would say I give the slight edge to Adam Sandler just because I watched more of his stuff growing up.
Mhm.
Happy Gilmore and like Grown Ups was like a big thing when I was like in middle school.
Mhm.
And then, of course, his serious roles, Uncut Gems and Punch Drunk Love. So I would give a slight edge to Adam Sandler, but Jim Carrey, when I think of Jim Carrey, my go-to is The Truman Show for me because I
Mm,
never watched like growing up. I just didn't watch a lot of Jim Carrey comedy movies.
mm.
Um, for whatever reason. I guess
Yeah,
when I
that's
was
wild.
yeah, I
Yeah,
know. I didn't I watched what's it called? Like Seth Rogen and his gang, like growing up, like in middle school, all that, those were like my go-to comedies. Like in
Mhm.
2013 we got, This Is the End. And I was watching it way too young, probably a lot of the
No such
times.
thing.
21 Jump Street, like movies like that, the other guys, Talladega Nights, like Will Ferrell is the one to me. Will Ferrell, Seth Rogen, Jonah Hill, all those guys. So
Gotcha.
yeah. Let's
Yeah, you
see.
can't go wrong with either one of them. They both
Mhm.
are the best of the best in the 90s and part of the 2000s.
Mhm. My buddy Trevor from Film Geeks is in the house. All love, man. Thank you for the super chat. Sunshine in California. I bet it is. It's gloomy here. It's supposed to storm overnight. Let's see. Hello, Raven. How you doing? I've
Hey,
been wanting
Raven.
to get to this topic. Thoughts on the Joker 2 trailer? Love the last shot. I think Joaquin is the best actor working today.
Hmm.
Interesting. What did you think of this trailer?
It's much like everything that I've seen and heard about this movie. It's intriguing in equal amounts of kind of confusing. I liked Joker quite a bit. I wasn't like, bananas about it, but I enjoyed it. But even back whenever they were talking about after it was so successful, like, I wonder if they're going to do a sequel. I've always been of the mind of like, how do you do a sequel to that? Like, just the way that the movie's framed about, things being in his head and where it ends off. I'm like, how do you even continue the story? It's such an isolated experience. So I think that they're on the right track of just having to do something so off the wall that it fits. With it from the trailer, you kind of get the vibe that a lot of this is probably going to be in their heads, and they're just kind of visualizing these music numbers or whatever. But yeah, the trailer, like it looks like it's beautifully shot. And like that whole the image at the end where she does the little smile and he moves over was just like, that's a really freaking good shot. Whoever came up with that. But story wise, I just don't know what the hell to expect from this. And I'm also somebody that I get very apprehensive whenever they start talking about musicals because I don't like musicals.
Hmm.
They just don't work for me. The only one in my entire life I've seen that I love is the original Willy Wonka. That's it.
Okay.
So if they put too much music into this, it could turn me off. But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued as hell.
I would say I agree with you 100% about the look of the movie. Like, impressive how it looks just like the first Joker, like visually speaking. I
Mhm.
loved what we saw of Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. And I do agree. I think that the musical numbers will be a lot of the times in their head. And in fact, a lot of the first movie is just Joker sort of creating these scenarios. I am very excited. I loved the trailer. I mean, I had a smile on my face when it ended because I was
Mhm.
sort of skeptical about it too. I was like, when we first got the Joker 2 news, I was like, we don't need that. And then Joaquin signs on to come back. They get Lady Gaga. Todd Phillips returns. I started to warm up to it more in the trailer. Automatically, I'm like, yeah, I'll be there day one. So
Mhm.
I dug it, and I think when it comes to musicals, we might be different there. I love musicals. I didn't really warm up to them fully until I was probably 17, like in high school, because my girlfriend was like, "Oh, watch West Side Story and Sound of Music with me this weekend." It's like, okay, and so I watched them, and I was like, I like this a lot. And now I listen to it in the car shamelessly. I have a Broadway hits playlist. So I'm curious to see what they do with that. But I did love that trailer, and I want to ask you this: do you think Joaquin will get not? I mean, it's way too early to tell. Predicting here. Do you think there's a world where Joaquin gets nominated again and wins again for the same role?
Nominated, yes. Wins, no.
Okay.
Whether he deserves it or not is irrelevant. I feel like the Oscars are very conscious of like not rewarding too much the same people. I mean, there's plenty of times where somebody gets an Oscar and it's just like a sorry we didn't award you for the last 10 times. Here's a
Yep.
give me. I mean, the famous one with Martin Scorsese for The Departed. So there's definitely a bit of that decision making with the Oscars, and so I don't see them doing that with Joaquin. But I mean, if they did, that'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah. I would love to see him get nominated if he's good enough. Obviously, I think he will be. And
Mhm.
Lady Gaga deserves a nomination. I think she should have won for her role in A Star Is Born.
Now I could see her getting a win if
Mm,
she's on that level in this one, for the same
fair
reasons. Like,
point.
we know that we didn't give it to you last time, but here we
Yeah.
love giving stuff to jokers apparently. So, that'd be cool.
That would be
And then
pretty
Margot
neat.
Robbie would be like, "What the fuck, man? Like, I did it like 5 times at this point."
Let's see. Sean Beach says, "Have you seen the Scream TV series?" I haven't.
I haven't either. I really like the Scream franchise, but I was never interested in the TV show. And right around the time when it started to gain my interest, is when they did season 3, where it was a complete creative reboot, and they
Mhm.
left the storyline of the first 2 seasons hanging, from what I understand. So then that solidified that I never wanted to waste my time with it.
Yeah, I have no interest. I would say I enjoyed the Scream franchise the most out of any horror franchise I've seen, but I have no desire to watch the show. Just don't. Rylan says,
Mhm.
"What are your thoughts on Saw XI or Saw 11, whatever you prefer, getting pushed to 2025?" I'll say it's probably for the best, just so they can make it a great movie. I know they hadn't started filming, and I was wondering about it when they released the release date, like however many months ago. They were like coming out,
Mhm.
September of 2024. I was like, is that possible?
Mhm.
It's obviously not. It's coming out next year now. How do you feel?
I'm happy about it. I'm somebody that I like about half of the Saw films, and about half of them I could care less if I ever watch them again.
Yeah.
So I've kind of been categorized up until last September as kind of a Saw hater in my little circles, because I'm always the one who's like, half of these movies suck and they're all the same, and I don't care if we ever get another one. And I was the biggest naysayer when Saw X was released, and then I ended up just loving that movie. So
Mhm.
I'm somebody that if they are focused on maintaining the quality and the critical reception and everything that seems so crazy that they got with Saw X, it's probably best to push it off and make sure that you have all your ducks in a row. The only
Okay.
thing they're working against is that Tobin Bell is not, a spring chicken. But when they announced that they were immediately following up with a sequel less than a year later, I started to cringe. I was like, oh, are we going back to this? It's October, it's Saw thing that we did? Because there was 8 years where every October was a new Saw movie, and the quality reflected that, in my opinion. So I'm fine with it.
Do you think they'll do a trilogy in this timeline? Do you think
Yes.
they'll make a 12th as well and do a little trilogy within? Okay.
Yeah,
You,
I can't remember specifically what was said, but I saw it premiere at Fantastic Fest last year. It was only a day before it went wide, so it wasn't too much of a premiere. But at the Q&A, the producers were saying about some of the things that they were setting up in X were deliberate to be, played out,
Mhm.
like the main villain of Saw X. The fact that
Yeah.
things are left unresolved, that's
Yeah.
meant to be like an arc for a couple of movies. So, with knowing nothing else beyond that, I even did a video where I kind of like pitched my idea for Saw 11 as a middle chapter of a trilogy, where
Mhm.
last one was about, Jigsaw and I forget, Cassandra maybe is her name. I'm blanking, but that whole thing getting kicked off. The second movie's kind of like apprentices assemble, because clearly they're going to try to get as many apprentices into this timeline as possible.
Mhm.
And then the third movie would be like this big showdown. So I think that's absolutely their plan.
I'm curious to see if I'm not going to say anything in the sake of spoilers here, but if a certain someone from the franchise returns or not, and I'll tell you after the stream. But you might be able to say who, but we'll see. We'll see.
Mhm.
Lucas with the super chat. I read this earlier. Interesting. My worst theater experience was Beau is Afraid. It was me and another couple. They knew I was there, but that didn't stop the girlfriend from. You can read the rest. Interesting.
What a strange movie to get that. I don't even know
Yeah.
if that would be pleasant.
People have no respect for other people. That they have no boundaries, and society is it's getting worse, to be honest. I know we're talking about the Joker a lot, and not to bring up society and all that, but it's a problem. People don't really care about other people.
Mhm.
But thank you for the super chat, Lucas. And yeah, sorry you had to see the movie. I never saw Beau is Afraid. I have people close to me who are like it sucked, but some people are like it's amazing. So,
Yeah, I wasn't a fan.
Stranger Fan 101 with the super chat. Before I read it though, or I'll read it and then I'll ask you something. Question for Cody: who do you think will die in the finale of Stranger Things 5? Tell him I'm a huge fan of his.
Appreciate it.
Are you a fan of Stranger Things? Is what I was going to ask.
I am. I
Okay.
am. I'm probably a lot more casual than most people, but I've seen all the seasons. I enjoy them. I'm struggling to remember some of the things that were set up. Um, I feel like just narratively, it's going to make sense if 11 sacrifices herself by the end of it. That's probably a safe, boring answer. But that, as well as the fact that Millie Bobby Brown has made it abundantly clear that she just wants to move on from Stranger Things.
Mhm.
So I think those two things back to back will make, a pretty easy answer that she'll probably get taken out to resolve whatever's going on by the end of it.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be she's high on my list of like predictions who could die. Uh, I also I kick around the idea of Steve biting the dust, but I know that he's such a fan favorite. It might be unforgivable, but I don't know. I don't think anyone's safe. It's the last season, so they can
Yeah.
do whatever they want now. They can't get cold feet. They've gotten cold feet with characters in the past, the Duffer Brothers.
Yeah,
Um,
that was my biggest issue with season 4. As much as I liked it, was just like, man, this got really intense for literally everybody to survive.
yeah, I feel that. I feel
Yeah.
that. Um, we got another super chat here. Thank you so much. Every Stranger Things season has a character whose name starts with a B die. Let's see. Barb, Bob, Billy, and then who dies in season 4 with a B? I'm not sure, but
The bully that gets split in half.
oh yeah, Jason is his name. I think so.
Chrissy. Yeah, I don't know. I can't
Eddie.
think of a B. Your logic is flawed.
Oh
You
man, that's
almost had
funny.
me until
Yeah.
season 4.
Unless we're forgetting and it's like a really minor character. I'm
Yeah,
really trying to
probably.
yeah, who knows? But yeah, we'll see if who's left with the B. I'd have to think about that real quick. Someone obvious maybe? Yeah, I don't know. Ray08 with the super chat saying, "Have you guys watched the Maxine trailer?" Cody, you spoke on that earlier.
Yeah.
You're a fan of the trailer, right? I haven't watched the trailer, so
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, all I knew about the movie was that it was set in the 80s and it was going to be set inside of Hollywood because Maxine's a working actress now, and that was really all the details that we got. And There's an element in the trailer of having a real life serial killer referenced many times that people have been a little off with. I feel like that's not going to be anywhere near as egregious as people are taking issue with. So I loved everything about it. I mean, you got Kevin Bacon in there. I love the fact that he keeps coming back to horror. So yeah, everything that
Is
I wanted from the trailer, I was like, yes, yes, and yes, you got it.
is Giancarlo Esposito in that as well?
I think he is. I don't remember seeing him in the
Okay.
trailer, but yeah, I'm pretty sure he's in the cast.
Very solid cast. I watched X. I wasn't crazy about it.
Hmm.
But with slasher movies, it's just hit or miss for me. So I never watched Pearl. But I have a friend who texted me and he was like, dude, loved the Maxine trailer. Has the potential to be like one of my favorite trilogies if they land it. So
Yeah.
I know people close who love it. You seem to really like it too. So
I'd encourage you to check out Pearl too, because it's very different than X.
okay.
It's like a totally different genre almost. It's almost like Wizard of Oz if it was
Interesting.
horror or something. It's wild. So yeah, maybe it's much more your thing.
Could be. Here we go. Season 4 has Dr. Brenner. That is true. He comes
Okay.
back, but first name is Martin, technically. Not to get all put my
Cheated.
glasses on. Yeah, cheater.
Every season has a character that dies that has a name. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh man, no. I appreciate the super chats, Mega Star Wars rocks, and you make a good point there. I don't know who, if any new character has a name that starts with a B. If Linda Hamilton's character is starts with a B, then she's a
Ooh,
goner, I
she's gonna
guess.
be in it. I didn't know
She
that.
is, yeah, she is.
Hell yeah,
Mhm.
Sarah Connor.
Let's see. Let's see. Interesting questions sifting through the chat here. Okay. Thought I had one. Where we at? What's up, Blu-ray Addict? How you doing? What? I like this one. What actor slash actresses would you love to see as Ghostface in a Scream movie? For me, it would be McKenna Grace.
It's a good question.
I'm not to stay on topic of Stranger Things, but as I watch through it right now again for like the millionth time, two names came to mind. Dacre Montgomery, who plays Billy in Stranger Things. He's also in that Power Rangers movie. I think he'd be a
Mhm.
great Ghostface. And then I really do think Joseph Quinn, who plays Eddie, would have a lot of fun in the role if they let him go crazy. So one of those two I would like to see. Even maybe if they were killers together, that could be pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm blanking on names because I'm trying to think of somebody who's not like I don't want to say somebody who's easily animated and crazy because that would
Mm-hmm.
give the plot away. I want to see somebody who's normally normal, then
Mm-hmm.
just go crazy, and I can't. I'm blanking right now. I'll have to come back to that one.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Jack of all trades says, "Do you like Fear Street? Sadie Sink is so incredible in it. Are you a Fear Street fan?"
I liked it. I wasn't in love with it.
Okay.
I had a very backwards experience with it where everybody loved the middle chapter, and I think I liked the third chapter the best. So I was very much on an island with like how I ranked those three movies, but it was a cool little event there where it happened.
Mm. I still haven't watched them. They're on my
Mhm.
list though. Every Halloween, like every October, I'm like, I'm gonna watch them this year. I'm gonna watch them this year. I hope this is actually the year. I think they're releasing a new movie at some point. I don't know if that's this year or next year, like Prom Queen or something. I think I saw.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I haven't watched them. I think I would like them. From what I really like the Scream films, and people have told me they're comparable. Um, in a way.
Um, I don't know. I wouldn't read too much into that.
Okay.
It's very much in the vein of like an adult Goosebumps because I think it is
Mm,
R.L. Stein, so it's that, but it's rated R. So you
okay.
have this town that's cursed by this woman or this witch or something, if I'm remembering correctly. So the first movie takes place in present time. The second movie takes place in the 80s when when the certain character in the first film got brought into the fray, and then the third film takes place in like the 1600s
Mm,
that kicked everything off, and then it all culminates together. So it's a neat little three-chapter thing, but, I don't know what to compare it to. The second one is very Friday the 13th. That's like a '80s camp slasher. The third one's more like something like The Witch,
okay.
and then the first one, I don't know if I would call it Scream, but they're interesting.
Fair. Fair.
Mhm.
Stranger fan with the super chat says, thoughts on Joker 2 trailer? Do you think it'll be better than the first? So we kind of talked about this a bit earlier, but regarding whether or not it will be better than the first, it's really difficult to say. I think it could definitely be on par with the first. I think it's going to be vastly different no matter how you cut it, just based on the trailer and the vibes it gave off. But I wouldn't be surprised if I walked out of it and said, I liked it just as much, if not even better than the first. It's not out of the ballpark for that to happen.
I mean, anything's possible. It's
Yeah.
hard to judge, but I have a hard time believing I'll like it as much as the first one. I feel like the freshness and the mystery of like what is this going to be when the first one came out is going to be hard to be topped. And then the musical element, I hate to walk in skeptical. I feel
Yeah,
like inevitably that's going to make it be an experience that's going to drop slightly from the last one, if nothing else.
that's fair. Yeah. I really am curious to see how the movie does, like how it's
Mhm.
received by audiences, how it's received by critics. More importantly, will it come close to the box office numbers of the first? And if they market it like they are right now, I think it's going to light it up at the box office. But anytime you get a sequel, it's almost I don't know if I'm using this term right. Something about the law of diminishing returns. I could be off there,
Yeah.
but like a sequel is not going to make as much because a portion of the people who saw the first one aren't going to go see it because they aren't fans, and for whatever reason, people aren't going to go see a sequel. So it's kind of hard to say.
Yeah, the first film was somewhat divisive. It wasn't like this, it wasn't like Infinity War or anything like
Hmm.
that, where everybody went to see it and everybody was like, "Oh my god!" And then literally everybody that saw that one is now going to go to this one, and then in droves. I feel like this is one that's probably going to be successful. I don't see it making a billion, because I think that there's the people that didn't like the first one, and then there's the people that are going to be turned off by the direction of this one. So it'll do well, but I'd be shocked if
Yeah,
it matches.
bruh. We just got a super chat saying bruh. Starts with a B. Oh man, that's funny. All right. Frozen Thing Studios, what's up? How you doing? Um, Cody, what are your opinions on the Shinedown band?
I liked them a lot whenever they first came out. After I'd say maybe 3 or 4 albums, it started to feel like it was just the Brent Smith show, who's the singer,
Okay.
and the band, the instruments kind of fell to the backside quite a bit, and they've gotten a lot more radio centric and a lot more commercial since then as well. So I like them. I like some of their early stuff. They still release some songs here and there that I like, but I haven't liked a whole album by them probably in 3 or 4 albums, maybe even 5.
Um, do they sing that song "Second Chance"? Is that like one of their
Yeah.
big hits? Yeah, I remember listening to that on the way to football practice in elementary school. I was
Mhm.
like, "This song's so cool." That's all I
Yeah.
really know about them, though. I haven't explored much. Um, let's see. Ooh, got some options here in the chat. What's your favorite George Clooney movie? Mine is Ocean's 11. Mine's also Ocean's 11. I know that's probably a pretty safe pick, but I surprisingly haven't seen a lot of Clooney stuff. I never watched Gravity. I never watched. Yeah, it's Ocean's 11 for sure.
From Dusk Till Dawn, baby.
Yeah, there you
I
have
think
it.
that's his best role.
I gotta watch that one then. Yeah.
Mhm.
What's your favorite movie genre?
Oh man, it's either horror or action, depending on the day you ask me.
Hmm.
Obviously, I'm known more for horror, but I'm just as much of a fan of action films. I mean, my top two favorite films of all time are Die Hard and Terminator 2. So, depending on the hour of the day that you ask me, it's one of those two.
Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, I would say for me, I love a good comedy, but more so like just like action, but more so adventure. Like I
Mm,
love Indiana Jones, Pirates of the Caribbean, National Treasure, movies like that where there's that sense of adventure. That's some of my favorite to just escape into. So action adventure would be my answer.
gotcha.
Let's see. Did either of you know Christopher Nolan's brother was involved in the Fallout show? I did not know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, very interesting. Let's see. Taco Studios, what's up? How you doing? Favorite movie theater experience. I like it. We can take a positive turn on this movie theater thing. Do you have one that comes to mind immediately?
Yeah, my best theater experience of all time was Avengers Endgame.
Mm,
And I'm not like somebody who's, crazy gaga about the MCU in general, at least here last couple of years, but that one building up to it for so long with so many consistently good movies, leaving off the way that it did in Infinity War, and then coming into this one, like this was like a sporting event. And for all of the things that we said in our bad experiences about people being loud and distracting and getting up and everything, like this was the one time where it was appropriate and it made it awesome. I remember just some of the key moments in that movie, just the whole theater, just like, ah! Like everybody freaking out together, and just 7 or 8 times in that last hour alone. And so I've never had an experience like that. I probably never will have it again. So that one's one that I value quite a bit.
I wish that I had that with Endgame. I
Mhm.
went at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's the only time I could go. I literally locked myself in my house for like the Thursday night and went off my phone and everything. Went 1 o'clock Friday, and like I might have been the only person who cared. Like when Cap wielded Mjolnir, I was like, and everyone was just like, I was like, damn,
Oh,
I know it sucked, but it made up
mhm.
for it with No Way Home. No Way Home was electric. That would probably be my
Okay.
answer. Or the Force Awakens because of the buildup. I
Mm.
didn't get like my booked tickets online, so I bought them at a theater, but I had to get there early, like the olden days, and I like got there 2 hours before. People were dressed up as Jedi. People were freaking out. So just sitting in the theater for like 2 hours before the movie started, or however long, and then hearing John Williams and then seeing the opening crawl, it was that's up there for me because that was the first Star Wars movie I ever saw in theaters.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah,
Cool.
because I was 5 when Revenge of the Sith came out, and it was PG-13. My parents were like, "We'll
Mhm.
wait until you can rent it." So I was bummed about it. But Force Awakens, that's up there, probably number one for me.
Cool.
Sully's in the house. What's good, man? My question is, what's a movie you're really excited for that you don't think is getting enough hype?
Ooh, damn, that's a
I
question
would say
that
that Wolf's movie that I mentioned earlier.
yeah, that's a
Like
good answer. Um,
it's Pitt and Clooney. What are we talking about?
mhm. I'll go with that one too for now because that
Yeah.
one was definitely on my radar. I think that made my top 10 most anticipated that I haven't heard anybody mention until you mentioned it. So,
Yeah, fair. I
mhm,
also I'm looking at my watch list on IMDb. There's two. One of them, that Hitman movie. I think
mm,
it's Linklater, and yeah, Glenn Powell. That looks pretty dang interesting.
yeah.
And then another movie. I think you might have seen this actually. I saw the trailer before I saw Immaculate with my buddy, and it's that Cuckoo movie looks really dang interesting.
Yes, that was my favorite movie of the festival until I saw Abigail,
Okay.
and I knew nothing about it. That's kind of the way that I like to walk into most horror films
Mhm.
nowadays, to just walk in blind. I like to kinda just experience the story as the filmmaker intended, like, twists and all, and modern marketing tends to ruin that. So, and Cuckoo is an example because 'cause I've seen the trailer after watching the movie, and it gives away some of the best moments.
Mm.
But yeah, that one it was just wild. Like the really good sound design, really good scares. A movie that you don't really know where it's going, and it just gets kind of wilder as it goes along. So that one's a high praise for me.
Yeah, that trailer, I mean, I can't go back and unsee it, obviously, but it
Hmm.
just played like before it was even online. And then I looked it up. I was like, it's not out online for whatever reason, but it played in the
Hmm.
theater. And yeah, I was like, that looks crazy.
Yeah.
The one shot of like her riding a bike, I think, with headphones, and I
Hmm.
was like, oh shoot.
I was
That's
so
what I was
bummed.
like.
I was so bummed when I saw that in the trailer. I was like, "Oh, that was one of the best parts," because that
That's
whole
what I was like.
sequence,
Yeah.
yeah, the whole sequence in the movie is wild because you're just like, this is eerie and I don't know why. And then they build up to it with the
Hmm.
shadows. And then
Hmm.
finally when you see it, you're like,
No, that's when I leaned over to my buddy. I was like, I gotta see that one.
mhm.
Oh man, let's see. Um, all right, let's look through, let's skip around in the chat here. Ooh, there's going to be a Happy Gilmore 2, someone asks. There is. There's going to be a Happy Gilmore 2. I think it's going straight to Netflix because of Sandler's deal with Netflix, from what I read, but I don't know
They would
much
be
else about it.
fools to not put that in theaters.
Yeah, because it would make a good chunk of money. That's one of those comedies that like anyone can watch it. People I watched it growing up. People watched it when it came out. So yeah, I think we'll see. We'll
I'm
see.
as excited as I am guarded about it because as I said earlier, I haven't genuinely enjoyed a comedy from Adam Sandler since Click. And I think
Mhm.
that came out in like 2004. So just his brand of comedy, I feel like has been that law of diminishing returns that we've talked about. And if he's going to put all of his best feet forward and put the best comedy out that he can, that's the movie that deserves it. I just don't know if it's going to happen.
We'll see. We'll see if he still got it, comedically
Mm.
speaking.
Shooter's Revenge.
That'd be a cool name.
Yeah.
Uh, have you guys watched the Quiet Place movies?
Oh yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. I'd say day one is. I think it was on my top 10 most anticipated of the year. I mean, I'm just curious to see what they do in the world again. The coolest damn thing I've seen in a long time is that like stand up billboard. What do you call them at the movie theater? It's like the cardboard thing, and it
Mhm.
looks like you're walking down. The one for day one looks like you're walking down a subway station. Like the way they use depth perception on it was really neat. So I saw that in theater. I was like, that looks really cool. But no, I'm excited for day one. And Joseph Quinn's in that from Stranger Things. Lupita Nyong'o. Yeah, I like the movies. They're not movies I rewatch often, but they're I saw them both in theaters. Both damn good to me.
Yeah, I agree. I've watched them. I think seen them both twice. Watched them in the theater, and then I watched them with my wife. But I loved the first one. I thought the second one was even better,
Mm,
and so I think the part one's on my top 10 as well.
fair. Let's see. Let's see. Thoughts on Alien Romulus trailer?
Hell yes.
I dug it. I will say for Alien, for everyone in the chat wondering my experience with it, I've seen the first two, love both. I watched the third for a Fincher ranking, hated it, and then I was like, I haven't watched the others, but I do plan to rewatch one and two, watch three again, and then watch the rest. I haven't seen like Covenant or Prometheus. Um,
Yeah, I mean that's one of those franchises, much like Terminator. The first two are really the only ones I would call required viewing. I hate three just as long with you. Four gets a lot of flack, but I feel like it's actually a pretty fun movie, especially compared to three. Prometheus and Covenant aren't for me. That's a love or hate direction, and some people are really passionately love it and are pissed that he's not doing a third one. And people like me are like, good, because I'm done. Alien Romulus, yeah, it gives me everything that I would want from a modern, call it a reboot. Fede Alvarez has done no wrong for me, and he seems like the guy who's gonna give it exactly what it needs.
yeah, there you have it. I loved what we saw from the trailer. It intrigued me enough to say I'm gonna carve out some time later this year to watch the whole franchise. So, yeah, it
Mhm.
did its job. My buddy says, Cody, tell Chris to watch Totally Killer. It's fun as hell. Yeah, he's been trying to get me to watch it.
That's a fun one. It's Back to the Future as a slasher. So
Mm, I'm sold then.
yeah,
I just got to be in that horror mood, and whenever it strikes, I got to get on it. And I'll do
I
the
hear
Fear
you.
Street trilogy, that some others. Let's see. Excited to see Nosferatu later this year. Oh, I just dropped my phone. Yeah, that comes out in December, right? Like Christmas, and it's
I think
directed
so.
by Robert Eggers. I want to say.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued with that one. Eggers is somebody where I had a rocky relationship with at first because The Witch is like a movie that I would say I appreciate more than I enjoy. Did not like The Lighthouse whatsoever, but I really liked The Northman. And as I said earlier, I'm a big vampire guy, and Nosferatu is a property that I've been wanting to see somebody tackle in a modern case, and I think he's the perfect person to do it. The cast is stacked. I've seen some of the still images that they've released. It looks awesome. So that one's really high up for me.
So for me, with Robert Eggers, all I've seen is The Lighthouse. I saw it in theaters with my buddy, and we drove like 30 minutes out of the way on like a Tuesday night, and we just went and saw it. We didn't know anything about it, and we
Mhm.
both like hated it.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize people loved it until after. We were like
Yeah. I
looking up.
realized that as soon as I put it in my bottom 10 of the year and I was getting just nothing but hate comments. I'm
Yeah.
like, how do people like this? What the hell was this?
We were looking up like ending explained, like because this was
Hmm.
2019 or whatever it came out on like the drive back, and we were both like, that was not for us at all. Turns out everyone loves it now. So
Not
yeah,
everyone.
weird.
Me and you hold the flag. Like,
Yes.
you hated it.
And my buddy who I saw
Liars.
it with. Sean asks, what's your favorite Pixar movie? So for me, for those who've been in my streams, I've said this a million times. It's either on any given day, it's either Toy Story 3 or Ratatouille.
Mine's the original Toy Story. I still
Mm.
remember how big of a deal it was when that movie came out, and I had the Sega Genesis video game for it. I would not sleep until I got the Buzz Lightyear toy.
Mhm.
That was just such a huge movie from my childhood, and with the exception of four, I have my issues with. I think it's a perfect trilogy, so you really can't go wrong with any of them. But the first one's just so special to me because of the childhood memories.
It still holds up to me. I mean, it's a top 5 Pixar. I think it's at my 5. I know this
Mhm.
person didn't ask, but I would say to fill it out, Monsters Inc. would probably be 3. The Incredibles and Toy Story would probably fill out my top 5.
Yeah, The Incredibles would be in my top as well. That would
Yeah.
be my number 2 pick.
Mm. Aiden asks most entertaining Ghostface. Uh,
Hmm.
are we allowed to say like who? Like without? I mean, spoilers. I guess maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, if you haven't seen any of the Scream films, just earmuff it until this question goes
Yeah.
off. But, man, that's most entertaining. That's different than favorite. Um, my favorite one is Jill from the 4th one.
Hmm.
I think she had the best plan. I think that she had the biggest chance of getting away with it all, and she was just batshit crazy. But most entertaining, I tend to lean towards Mickey in the 2nd film.
Hmm.
I really like how, Timothy Olyphant just turns his performance in the end there, even though he disappears for a large chunk of the film. I think that he's just that shit nuts, and, I really enjoy what he brought.
I would say my favorite is undoubtedly Stu, and he's
Mhm.
probably the most entertaining. I mean, just Matthew Lillard's performance it's something else, really. But I would say honorable mention for me would be Jack Quaid. His name's escaping me, but Jack Quaid in the 5th movie. I really liked his turn there as well. So one
Mhm.
of those two, probably most entertaining. The interesting thing about 6 is I loved the movie, but it doesn't have. It's unique because there's technically like 3, but it just doesn't have my favorite Ghostface killers by any means. But it is
It's my least favorite. I did not like the 3rd act of that movie at all.
really not a
Yeah,
fan.
I loved it. It was my favorite Scream sequel easy until the Ghostface reveal, and
Hmm.
then there was so many things that happened in that last 15 minutes that just did not work for me, and I've seen it, like, twice since, and it still doesn't, so
That's fair.
that was a big drop for me when I saw it.
I am I'm not really a fan of the killers, but I really liked the movie. Hard to
Mhm.
explain sort of, but it is one of my favorite Screams, I'd say. 1, 6, really like the 5th one. I wish they just called it Scream 5. And then the worst one by far to me is 3. I think that's the consensus though from what I've read.
Yeah, while still being a very solid movie, that's, I always say if Scream 3 is your worst film, you're doing pretty damn good.
Fair. We got a super chat, no question. If you have a question, fire it off and I'll get to it. But thank you for the super chat. Um, there it is. I think there's a question. Either of y'all seen the first Omen yet, and will you review it?
There's a chance that I'm gonna see it tonight, a pretty solid chance, 'cause it came out the weekend I was in New Orleans, unfortunately. I really wanted to see it, and apparently it's really good, which I was not expecting. But yes, as soon as I see it, I will review it. Everybody's been, like, clamoring for it in the comments, and I'm like, "I'm busy!"
That's always the worst when you're like out of town and something you need to make a video about drops and you
Mhm.
can't do anything about it. It's like
Yeah.
it's this pressure builds and builds. I remember that, yeah, it happened at MegaCon. Like one of the Duffers posted something and I was like, oh, but I want to wait to be in my set to make the video. And so
Mhm.
I haven't seen the first Omen. I probably will not watch it. My buddy Starcourt, who's in the chat, shout out Jacob, he saw it and he texted me immediately and he really dug it. And I've heard countless people say it's very gruesome. And so I kind of just want to see what people are talking about. Like I just want to look up like a scene from the movie in like 2 months, but
Mhm.
maybe I'll watch it one day. I haven't seen the OG Omen. I actually watched.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a
I'm
lot
giving
of.
you homework, man. When we close this off, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
give you a CVS receipt of things to watch.
I actually watched years ago a Chris Stuckman review of it, but that's all I've really seen. I think it might have spoiled some things, but it's vague. It was years ago now. So
I mean, it's a movie that I don't think I mean, it would be nice to watch it without knowing everything, but you can I knew the basic idea of where
okay, yeah.
things were gonna go when I saw it. But yeah, that's my favorite horror film from the '70s, I'm pretty sure. So
Okay.
it's a really good one.
Yeah. Well, I've heard damn good things about it, and yeah, this movie is all over Twitter. If you go there right now, people are praising it. So,
Mhm.
all right, where was I in the chat? Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Okay, I think we're somewhere around here. All right. I am not. I haven't seen Civil War, so I won't have a video for it. If I see it at this point, I think it comes out. I would probably include it in like an end of the month ranking, but I haven't seen it. Okay. Let's see. We'll go for a few more minutes here. So fire off your questions. Super chat's the way to go to guarantee we get right to it. All right. Favorite high school movie? So like movie set in high school. Yeah, I would say
American Pie.
okay. Yeah, fair.
Pretty sure that's mine, unless I'm missing one. There's a lot of John Hughes movie that would probably compete for
Yeah.
that, but I'll stay confident and say American Pie.
I would say either Super Bad or it's a toss up between Dazed and Confused, which I watched. Like it was my thing to watch that like the first day of summer in high school, my last few years of high school. Or 21 Jump Street. That's a movie that's a comfort movie to me. Technically a high school movie. So yeah.
Yeah, another one. If we're gonna get away from comedies, I really like The Perks of Being a Wallflower. You got to be in the mood for it because it's very depressing, but I think that's a really good one too. And
Yeah,
it's very real about the high school experience. It doesn't glamorize it at all.
I watched that one in 2020 for the first time. My buddy recommended it, and you're right. It's a heavy watch, but it's well worth it. Shout out Eddie. Got to shout him out. My buddy usually does this, so I'm going to do it for him. Eddie, there you go.
Thank you, Eddie.
All right. Hey Chris, what do you think of the Bad Batch season 3 so far? To be honest with you, I haven't been watching it. I watched all of season 1. Season 2, I watched the first few episodes of, and I just kind of fell off with it. And I've heard 3 is the best of the show, the best the show has to offer, but it would take a lot out of me to sit down and watch all of season 2 and all of season 3. I just don't have the passion to do that right now. It's not off the table, but yeah, I don't know. Do you watch the Bad Batch?
No, I've never seen a single episode of it. That's a Star Wars animated show. If I'm not
it's
mistaken.
like it's set right after, like the pilot of it is Order 66 time period, so it's between 3 and 4.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't watched any of the Star Wars animated stuff. I thought I was a Star Wars fan until I got on YouTube and actually joined the internet, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I don't even deserve to call myself a fan." I'm sorry.
I watched, I've seen Clone Wars and Rebels, but Bad Batch I'm not caught up on. Gavin says favorite Sorkin script. So Aaron Sorkin, I would say it's got to be The Social Network.
If I'm not mistaken, he did A Few Good Men, right?
He did. Yep.
That would probably be my favorite.
Very fair point. Yeah. Another one though, Moneyball. He co-wrote Moneyball, and that's like a top 2 sports movie right alongside Remember the Titans for me.
Gotcha.
Okay. Have y'all seen the Apes trilogy in preparation for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes? Yes.
I've seen every Apes film. I absolutely love that recent trilogy. I'm also a big fan of the absolute original Planet of the Apes. My dad kind of raised me on that one. But yeah, I'm very excited. That's right underneath Maxine. That's my most anticipated of the year.
Very nice. I liked the Apes trilogy. Really liked War. Thing is, I haven't revisited it since theaters for whatever reason. It's just one of those movie series where I liked it in theaters, haven't thought about it. So I do plan to rewatch them here in about a month, pretty soon. There's a good one in here. Where to go? Oh, have you been watching X-Men 97? That was those.
No, I'm curious about it because I did watch a lot of X-Men, the animated series when I was a kid, but I don't know. Something about Disney Plus has just burned me so much with their shows, both Marvel and Star Wars, that I just have no interest in watching anything that they put out for a while. Even though everybody's been saying how good X-Men 97 is, I'm just something about turning on Disney Plus. I'm just like, no, you don't deserve it.
I can't blame you there. I really can't. I haven't watched this either. The reason is I never watched the original, so I'm like, why would I watch? I looked it up. It says it's sort of a sequel continuation of the original X-Men series that I never watched. So there's no point. I don't know if this is technically even part of the MCU. If it is, oh well. But yeah. Starcourt says thoughts on Thanksgiving 2. I can't wait for it.
I'm looking forward to it. I wasn't crazy about Thanksgiving. I did enjoy it, but it wasn't anywhere near what a lot of people thought. It was just like this huge, awesome slasher of the year. I really enjoyed the kills. I enjoyed the Thanksgiving holiday and some of the style that was in there, but I really did not like the characters, and I really did not like the killer reveal or the killer's motivation. So I have confidence that Eli Roth will do an even better film on Thanksgiving too. So I'm looking forward to it, but I can wait. I'm not
Mhm.
itching for it.
I really enjoyed Thanksgiving. It was one of 2 times in my life where I had the theater to myself.
That's
And so
always a good one.
that added to it for sure. Gruesome, obviously. I didn't find the film to be particularly predictable, but I talked to people afterwards who said they did find it predictable. Did you
Yeah.
kind of guess what was coming? You did? Okay.
Very early on. I don't remember
Okay.
what tipped me off, but very early on, I was like, I feel like that guy's going to be the
Okay.
killer. And then I didn't guess the motivation, but that's because the motivation was lame. the There was I can't really say here, but there was a totally different character with a totally different motivation that the film actively sets up
Mhm.
that would have been a lot more leaning into like a satirical exploration of Black Friday that they started the movie off with. So I was kind of shocked that they didn't go that direction.
Mhm.
Like I'm not a screenwriter, but I was like, what? You that was right there. And so we'll talk about it when we close off if
I
you
think I know
want.
who you're
But
talking about, so yeah.
yeah, but there was just whether they revealed it, I was like, but this is the lamer version of what you could have done. So that's the only thing I'm hoping for Thanksgiving too is maybe there's going to be some reveals of like that wasn't the only thing going on, and they'll kind of course correct, but we'll see.
Yeah, expand the lore, dare I say.
Yeah.
Speaking of slashers, what's your favorite slasher movie? Kill. So not killer, but kill.
Ooh, damn, that's a tough one. That would be a good video.
That
I
would
could
be.
just name off
Yeah.
a couple of my favorites. So, one that's certainly up there in Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors is like the marionette kill where he's got the guy's tendons and he's like walking him in his dream with his tendons and then makes him jump off a roof. I'm not a massive fan of the movie itself, but The Burning has this raft kill scene that is the highlight of the entire movie where a dude just jumps up and slaughters a bunch of
Oh
people
my
on a raft.
gosh.
And it's got Tom Savini makeup effects, so that one's really effective. And if I was to do like a top 20, I don't want to overhype this movie because I wasn't really a big fan of the movie, but a movie that I saw at the film festival I just left called In a Violent Nature. There's a kill in that movie that is so good that it's going to crack like the top 15, top 20 kills of all time for a lot of people. It's, the rest of the movie doesn't necessarily measure up to it. So again, I don't want to overhype the movie, but there's a kill involving yoga that was like, hell yes, give me more of that. And then they didn't.
Is that the POV movie where it's like
Yeah.
from the entire point of view of the killer? Yeah.
Hmm.
Interesting. Yeah. I would say I haven't seen enough slashers to really give you a deep cut answer, but of the slashers I've seen, I honestly I don't know. Like let me think. Scream, Thanksgiving. I mean, there was a few in Thanksgiving that stood out to me. One involving a cat. That was pretty funny, I thought.
Hmm.
Um, in terms of the Scream series, I mean,
As much as I like Scream, I constantly criticize Scream for having pretty boring kills.
mhm.
They've
I
never
would
really,
say,
gone that crazy with their creativity.
yeah. There's one in 6 where there's like a ladder. I hate heights, and so I'll say something that one stands out to me. But I never really think back on the kills when I watch them. So I don't know.
Hmm,
I would think of something from like a Final Destination movie more so than anything if I went that
it's a
route.
good
And
one.
I think the 5th film, the one in the gymnasium. Oof.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Blake's in the house with a super chat. Thank you so much, Blake. Watching your rewatch of Stranger Things is getting me hyped for season 5 and the Upside Down Con, where hopefully we meet again. Yeah, that Upside Down Con is going to be a lot of fun. For those who don't know, it's October 19th and 20th in Jackson, Georgia, where downtown Hawkins is in real life. And Millie Bobby Brown's already announced. Joe Keery's announced. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be there. And yeah, if you guys are there, come say hello. Let's see. Starcourt says add Black Christmas tier list. Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
It's a good pick.
Sean says, what's your favorite Saw twist? Without saying it, the first one. It's the first one for me. Has to be.
Mine's 2.
Okay.
Mine's 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I was surprised by the first one. I'm not one of those people that's like I predicted it. But the second one, I just think it came together better. I think there was just more things going on that all came together really nicely. So that's the one that works the best for me.
Honorable mention for me would be 4. The end of 4, like the 4 is not one of my favorites, but the end of 4, it's kind of one of those moments. So Let's see. We'll take like one or two more questions and then wrap this thing up. But it's been a fun stream. Super chat in your questions if you got any last minute ones you want us to answer, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Where are we at? Thoughts on Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which comes out, I think it's slated for a Christmas release right now this year. Are you a fan of these films?
I have enjoyed them. I was significantly more excited when they confirmed that Jim Carrey was coming back, because after the second one, he was saying he was done, he was retired, and that bummed me out because he's such a big piece of why I've enjoyed them so much. I'm not really all that well versed in the character of Shadow, which is like the big draw for Sonic fans this time. I was, the Knuckles and Tails generation, so they've kind of already given me my nostalgia. But yeah, I liked the first one. I thought the second one was even better. Before Last of Us came out, I would have said there's an argument that Sonic 2 is the best video game adaptation, which is kind of sad, but I thought it was pretty solid. So yeah, I think it's going to be fun. My kids enjoy them, so that's one that I'll like taking everybody out to see.
I enjoy the movies. I didn't grow up on Sonic. I played like one game on the GameCube, like Sonic. It was like a race game, almost like a surfboard. I don't remember what it was called.
Sonic Racers, probably.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. I will probably watch it, but yeah, I saw the movie and it was like spring break in the city I live in. And so it was a packed theater. I did not expect it because it was like the Thursday early showing, earliest they had. And the post-credit scene, when they showed Shadow, the place erupted. I was like, oh, wow, there's a huge Sonic fandom out there. And I wouldn't be surprised if they somehow, I think it could be an issue with studios, but if they eventually did like a Sonic Mario crossover, just like a building up to sort of a Super Smash movie.
Yeah, it was always weird because Sonic was a Sega property and Mario was Nintendo, and Sega and Nintendo were like two rivals as far as game systems when I was growing up. And then eventually, like, Nintendo somehow acquired Sonic on some level. So all of a sudden you got all these Sonic and Mario mashup games like in the Wii era. I don't know how it works with the movie rights though, because so Sonic has never been in the same universe as Mario, but Nintendo games somehow crashed them together.
It beats me because I played. It was for the Beijing Olympics. I think it was 2008 or 2012. I had on my DS. It was Mario and versus Sonic Olympics, and so all the characters were going against each other in like swimming, track and field, whatever. Weird. Let's see. We've got two super chats. One from Movie Fan 2002 saying favorite movie score of all time. That's a tough ask. I'm a big movie score fan. I have playlists on my phone. I listen to them when I edit, when I work out. You have a favorite?
I can't say as far as like a whole movie score. Of course, there's ones that are like, Back to the Future and Indiana Jones, like those basically all John Williams stuff. But my favorite piece of music in a movie ever is Time from Inception. I will listen to that by itself, just that little 4-minute little segment once in a while, and it gets me pumped. So that one.
I listened to that yesterday. I was on a walk and I was just like zoning out, like thinking about my life.
Yep.
It's super easy to do that. A very recent one for me has taken the spot of all time because I listen to the entire album when I edit videos and when I work out, and that's the score for Oppenheimer. It's just multiple tracks on there, just getting me going. American Prometheus, Can You Hear the Music? There's one called Fusion, I want to say. They're all just like, whoa. It's just, Ludwig is probably my favorite composer of this new generation because Hans Zimmer and John Williams are legends. But I think Ludwig Göransson in the future, I mean, he's already got 2 Oscars. I think he's going to be that name where like, oh, he scored that movie. It's going to be legendary.
Cool.
Ryan says, Cody, Freddy needs to return. Been too long.
Preach, man. Preach. I don't know what the hell they're doing.
Let's see. I've only seen the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie. I've heard some of them are actually better than the original.
The only movie that people argue is better than the original is the third one. Okay. And I'm one of those people, but I'm talking about like by a razor thin margin, not like it eclipses the original. There's no other movie in that franchise that I could understand an argument besides the third one, because the third one is just like a more fun 80s kind of movie than the original. Original's straightforward horror. The third one's still horror, but that's where the one-liners started to come in. And then after that, the one-liners got terrible. So it was just that one little moment in time where they kind of got the mix right.
Yeah. George wants to know if you've given any more thought to an actor or actress you would like to see as Ghostface.
I saw the question pop up and I was like, oh shit, yeah, let me think about it. I'm gonna say, even though I don't know if he would ever do a Scream film, it feels like he's gonna be just doing Oscar level stuff from now on. I'd be curious to see Timothy Chalamet do one because I've only seen him do serious stuff,
Mhm.
and I'd want to see him unhinged. So that's one I'll
That could
pick.
be fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he would do that. You're right, but it would be fun to see him like say he wins an Oscar in the next decade, and then he's like, "I'm going to do something outside the box." That would be fun to see.
Hmm.
Uh, Someone I would love to see, Emma Stone. I feel like could really have fun with it too.
Yeah, that's a good
She's
one.
won 2 Oscars now. Why not have some fun with it?
Hmm.
We'll take these last two. The super chat saying favorite Mario Kart character.
I always pick Donkey Kong. That's
Okay,
always my go-to.
I would use Toad or uh, Waluigi and what was the other one's name?
Wario.
Wario. Yeah, that's it. And I would use that. So probably one of those two pairings. But I played Double Dash on the GameCube growing up. That was like my Mario Kart. I know everyone has their different one. So,
Hmm.
and the final question here: favorite Cobra Kai season from Starcourt.
Mine was actually the fourth one,
Okay.
and which was funny because when I got to the third season, I wasn't a big fan of it, and I was like, "This show needs to wrap it up. Like, there's just not much left to do." And I walked into the fourth season pretty cynical, and then that ended up being my favorite one. And I was like, "Never mind, let's keep going." And then I didn't care for season 5 so much. So be careful what you wish for.
Mhm. 4 is up there for me, but funnily enough, I loved 5. 5 is my favorite. I thought that there were a lot of earned moments between characters, like payoff,
Mhm.
specifically like Robbie and Miguel's relationship. It was over the top. I feel like it always knew what it was. We got a damn sword fight poolside with Terry Silver and Chosen. I was just eating it up, and so I'm ready for this final season. I think they'll stick the landing, but I also stand by the fact that I think 5 could have ended the show if they
Yeah.
added like 30 minutes to the end.
Mhm.
So we'll see. I'm kind of on the fence about Kreese still like breaking out, and we'll see his
Yeah.
role. Like, we'll see. That's the only thing I'm kind of skeptical about, but I'm pretty pumped.
Yeah, for me, the natural story conclusion was the thing they were setting up in season 4, where it's like we're going to get to the All Valley again. Now we have Terry Silver and the whole Cobra Kai crew is back together, and the other two are working together. Like narratively, that was setting up the end of the show. And the only reason why I was not like really upset that they were clearly going to continue is just because I loved season 4 so much. So I was like, hey, who am I to doubt them at this point? And then season 5, while having a lot of those great moments you were talking about, yeah, setting up this other tournament,
Hmm.
this world I'm like, but that's not as satisfying. So,
That's
yeah,
fair.
I'm a little guarded about them
We'll see
sticking
if
the
they
landing.
landing. I hope they do. My biggest fear is that damn Karate Kid movie.
Yeah.
That's like in the back of my mind. I'm like, is that going to screw this up? Is this end of this show going to tie into that? We
Mhm.
don't know. We have one more super chat. Actress I want to see in Scream, Melissa Barrera. Yeah. I mean, I wish she was coming back too, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
She's awesome in Abigail. So, go see
That
that.
excites me. That
Mhm.
excites me. All right, there's 2 quick ones, and then we're wrapping this thing up for real.
Okay.
Have you seen the Final Destination movies? Yes, I've seen all of them, and
Yeah.
I'm excited for Bloodlines. I think that's what it's called, right? Bloodlines.
Yeah, unfortunately, because there's
Yeah.
like 9 other horror films with that subtitle. But yeah, I've seen most of them in theaters. I've been a fan since day one. I was, crazy about the trailer for the first one, and the only one that I don't like is the fourth one, which is
4 is the
pretty
worst.
pretty popular opinion.
Yeah.
But it's time. It's been enough time that I think that we're ready for a new one.
I will say, and I'm so weird with horror franchises. I'll be like a fan of Final Destination, Saw, Scream, and then I haven't seen all these other popular ones. But the way the 5th film ended, I was watching with my girlfriend. She showed them to me. Shout out her for showing me a lot of horror movies. And that's the same reaction as Saw. I was like, holy shit. When the
Hmm.
end of I won't say too much, but crazy movie.
Yeah, it was cool.
Um, and then final one here from Happy Buddy. Favorite actor on Stranger Things? Thoughts on Gaten Matarazzo? So a two-part question. Gaten's really nice. I got to meet him in person at MegaCon, and he's super short, super short. Like I took a picture with him.
I
He's
did
like
too,
all
and I'm already a
the
tall guy, so me and him are right next to each other in the
yeah.
picture. Um, yeah, I mean, they're all really good characters, but it's either Gayton or Steve are probably the two that and just those two together, I think are a
Mhm.
really good pair. So those are the ones that I like the most.
Yeah, I would say David Harbour as Hopper is my number
Yeah.
one. It's actually David Harbour's birthday today. Happy birthday, David Harbour. But yeah, he's my number one. Steve / Joe Keery right below that. So
Have
yeah,
you seen
that
a movie called Spree with Joe Keery in it?
yes, I have
Okay.
watched Spree. Yeah.
That's a good one. I like that one.
It really was. It was fresh in terms of like how it was almost like a found footage movie through phones, live stream, security cams. Like that movie was good. I did like a video on my channel about it a few years ago now. But yeah, Spree was good.
Mhm.
But yeah, that'll conclude this Wednesday Night Live Q&A. Thank you all so much for joining in here. If you're on the replay, hello. I know a lot of you guys, it's the middle of the night, across the world right now. So thank you guys for tuning in on the replay. Cody, thank you so much for joining me. It was fun, man.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. So hit the like button. Again, if you guys are here live or on the replay, go subscribe to Cody's channel if you're not already. Follow him on all the socials. They're linked down below. But that's going to do it. Thank you guys as always. And until next time, see you guys later.